Dennis, thank you so much. I always thank my guests for driving up to the studio. I know with the DFW Metroplex being as big as it can be a journey for some. So first and foremost, thank you.
Yeah, happy to be here.
um, so, and I also mentioned that you picked up on the purple themes of the podcast. So I appreciate, as an EA, it kind of feels like we're already on that same mindset.
Understand.
um, so first and foremost, let's talk a little bit about your beginnings. If I understood correctly from LinkedIn, you started as or you eventually made your way into the C-suite as a CIO executive?
No, I was more on the sales side of things. I
Okay.
started my career with one of the greatest men I ever knew, Zig Ziglar.
Mm, wait.
Yeah,
Did you actually work with him?
yeah. I knew Zig. I knew Zig well.
I think it's the first time I've been speechless on the
Uh,
podcast.
yeah. I could take up a whole program of just telling you stories.
Oh
His
my
impact
gosh.
on me and I know his impact was on a lot of people, but
Yeah.
even people that saw him from afar, he was incredibly impactful. But if you were around him, there were things all the time that, if I could ever be even half the person he was, I would feel accomplished.
Oh my gosh. Yes. Please talk to us about that beginning and how it was and how that helped to grow you.
Yeah, well, I met him originally. I met him at church, and I went to his Sunday school class.
Okay.
And he changed the course of my life when he gave me this goal setting planner that he had. And this was a lot of years ago, right? We
Uh-huh.
didn't have any iPhones or anything like that when this occurred. It was paper and pen. And so it was a goal setting planner. And he gave that to me, told me that he'd give it to me if I would use it. And I did. And it was the thing that began to change the course of who I am and my life today. So it started there, and then after college, I went to work for him for several years, and that was just an incredible opportunity. And his son, Tom Ziegler, who's still a great speaker today,
Uh-huh.
I've run into him a couple of times here recently, but I worked for Tom, and Tom's a great man as well.
Can you tell us some of those early goals that were in that planner?
Oh, well, so much of the early planning was around sports. So I played
Uh-huh.
football in high school and my freshman year I was this B team football player, and that's when he gave me the planner, and I would go on to become a varsity starter my junior year and win some awards. And it was and I really, as I look back on it, it was his influence that led to all that. And then it would carry on into college and where I would end up being president of my fraternity and president of the interfraternity council and homecoming prince and all these different things. and
Uh-huh.
and it all goes back to his influence on me in those early years.
Wow. So we're getting right into it. Previous guest on the podcast, all of them, I would bet 100% of them have mentioned a name of a person that has been influential and changed the trajectory of their life. And I'm very open that, that person for me was Dallas Cothram. And Dallas, he has gone through your executive.
Yeah, I coached Dallas for many years up until he was able to sell his company.
Right. And so that you have mentioned now, a name all of us know is just goes on to show who is in your life matters. And so let's speak a bit about what you do and how that leads to that mindset that many people need if they want to level up. Let's
Yeah.
speak to Intrepid CPO because you mentioned that is the training and development arm.
Yeah, so we do both coaching.
Okay.
So I really have two sides to the business. The peer groups, Vistage is a major player in that. I'm a Vistage Chair, as they call us. It's an organization with 40 something thousand members. It's been
Hmm.
around since the 1950s.
Okay.
11 and a half years ago, I became a Vistage Chair. And I won't bore you with the story, but through a very strange series of events over a 6-day period, I decided to change the course of my life and do Vistage, and
Okay.
it's been the best thing I've ever done. It's one of the most rewarding and powerful things I've ever been a part of. And then the other side of it is there's some people that don't necessarily want to be in a Vistage group, and
Mhm.
so I coach them. I have some CEOs of some very large companies that I deal with directly. Sometimes I even coach their entire leadership team.
Okay.
And then and so we've created an assessment tool. We call it the leadership optimization tool that I'm in the last stages of my book.
Oh my gosh, you have been busy.
Oh, but one of the things in 11 and a half years of Vistage I've learned is there are 11 things that I see CEOs and all leaders
Okay.
do poorly, almost every one of them. In fact, I would even argue that if they tell me they're good at any more than one of them, I don't believe them.
Are you
And
able to share that with us, or is this in your book?
no, I'm happy to share some of them. Well, one, and these aren't in order of importance. They're
Mhm.
in order of how often I see them in our processing, in our coaching. The first one is CEOs don't lay out expectations well, and they don't know how to.
Okay.
No one's ever taught them. How do you lay out expectations? How do you do it well? And so that's the one that I see almost, not almost, I see it on a monthly basis being a problem.
Mm.
Number two is they don't let people go fast enough. And some people have this idea of the CEOs because they see these CEOs on TV. They've watched Wall Street or The Wolf of Wall
Right,
Street or all these
right.
shows where the CEOs are these unscrupulous people. Fact of the matter is, I only deal with good people. And the CEOs, all I deal with, they're all really good people.
Mm.
And so they actually hold on to people way too long. And it does a disservice to the company. It does a disservice to that employee.
Yes.
And it never ends well.
You know, I'm reading right now Good to Great. I
Oh,
realize I'm behind the game, but because I've connected with other CEOs, this book has come up several times. So I'm reading it now, and Jim Collins speaks to getting the right people on the bus
that's
and
exactly right.
getting the wrong people off the bus.
Yeah, I was very fortunate to be able to have breakfast with Jim about 4 years ago.
Stop.
Yeah, no, and one of the questions that I asked him directly, and there was about 30 of us at this breakfast, and I asked him directly, what is the one thing that I need to be going back to tell my CEOs?
Mhm.
Tell me what I need to be telling them and emphasizing, and that's exactly what he said. He said, "Get the right people on the bus. It Nothing else matters until you do that." And so what happens is sometimes we have wrong people on the bus
Mhm.
and we don't lay out expectations. And one of the others on the list is we don't hold people accountable. How do you actually hold somebody accountable? What does that look like? And so most CEOs don't do that. So they don't lay out expectations, they don't hold accountable, and then here's something else they don't do. They don't give them brutal honesty.
Ah, yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
and so now I haven't told these people the truth. I tell them you're doing okay versus hey, like right now, you're not making it. You're not where I need you to be.
Yeah.
And they don't have those hard conversations. And the other thing they don't do is they're most of them believe they're really good at giving positive feedback, and most of them are terrible about it. I have one story I tell all the time that I'm sitting down with a CEO and I'm working with him and he's talking about his number two in his company and he's like, she's awesome. I couldn't live without her. She's going to be the next CEO of this company. She is amazing. And I'm going, well, that's wonderful. You found that person. And this is not an exaggeration. 2 days later, she shows up. I'm meeting with her and she goes, look, I want to talk to you. I'm very worried I'm about to lose my job. And I'm going, how can that even be?
Yeah.
And when I go back to the CEO and I say, "Do you give her positive reinforcement?" Because, "Oh yeah, I'm doing really good job at it." I'm like, "No, you're not. You suck at it."
Yeah. Oh my
And
gosh.
so, but who teaches us how to do that? And so those are just a few. And so then what happens? I'm not laying out expectations.
Mhm.
I'm not holding them accountable. I'm not providing them brutal honesty. I'm not providing them positive feedback. And so then by the time I get tired of them as an employee, by the time I feel like they're not need don't need to be on the bus, I'm like, well, now I've got to go do all those things I haven't been doing
Yeah.
before I can let them go because it's my fault. And in all honesty, it is their fault.
Right.
But they hold on to people way too long.
When you speak about those conversations being tough, right? The accountability conversation, do you have any tools that makes that better? Makes it easier?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Absolutely, and all that will be in the book that comes out. Yeah.
Okay, okay.
But the thing we forget is that most of the time A players are very accepting of brutal honesty.
Yeah.
The book is entitled 1% Leader,
Okay.
and the 11 elite skills that the 99% never master. And
Mm,
that's the book that's coming out. But, you know, of those elite skills, because we don't master them,
mhm,
we actually do a really poor job of leading. And the people that even master a few of these skills rapidly ascend to the 1% of leaders
mhm.
because no one teaches us how to do these things. We learn by trial and error.
Right. So, if you had a recommendation, because Sweet Mornings is bringing people to the table of high performers, executives, entrepreneurs, and Vistage is a name in the DFW Metroplex worldwide, right? But
Yeah.
especially here, if you're part of a Vistage group, it's a pretty big deal. And there's not an access issue, but there is an access issue, right? I mean, you're gonna pay to be part of the Vistage group.
Yeah,
So
and it's not cheap.
it's not. So again, I appreciate you sitting down with us, because this insight, this just getting an hour of your time isn't cheap. And so being able to have you speak to the community is such a blessing. If you could give one tip on being that leveling up, doing that 1% today, what would it be?
Well, I think typically where I start with CEOs a lot
Hmm.
of times,
Okay.
beyond the setting clear expectations,
Yeah.
which is always a problem. Um, we have Whataburger here in Dallas, which I love, and I love their taquitos. And a while back, I would drive through and get my taquito in the morning, and
Okay.
and there was this beautiful, lovely lady that was always there, and she was bright and smiling and engaging, and I looked forward to every time I saw her. And one day I pulled through Whataburger and I ordered my taquito and I told her, I said, you know what? I didn't really want a taquito this morning, but I wanted to come see you because you always make my day better. And she started to cry. And so there is an epidemic, I believe, in encouragement that we have in
Mm-hmm.
business today.
Mm-hmm.
People are starving for encouragement. I think things like um, Zoom and a lot of these other things have even created more issues with it. But one of the things I tell CEOs is one of your number one jobs is to encourage people, is to be that person because they hold and y'all this, right? Your CEO holds this position, male or female, that's patriarchal or matriarchal, and you want their appreciation. You want them to view you as doing good work, and
Right.
and when they do a really poor job of communicating that, they're really missing an opportunity to bring out the best in people.
Thank you for sharing that. I tease that some of the executives I've worked for, their love language is words of affirmation. I know it. And I've been fortunate. And maybe it's because some of them have gone through Vistage or have been adjacent to you. They know the importance of a timely compliment, or giving grace. At the same time, you're right. They do balance that brutal honesty. And so thank you for that tip.
Yeah. I kid some of my CEOs. I tell them that their love language is hate,
Oh,
and
no.
so we really got to work on
Oh
that.
my goodness. So, when you have all of these leaders at the table, I'm curious, do they all get along?
Yeah, so some of them have become best of friends. It's like any group of 15 to 20 people.
Mhm.
You have people you're closer to and not.
Yeah.
Uh, what I find though is the most important aspect is you
Mhm.
never know who's going to give that advice or those words of wisdom that make all the difference in the world. And a lot of times it comes from the person you least expect. And
100%.
so having that variety of people, we're not a boys and girls club,
Mhm.
right? We're a roll up your sleeves, grow your company, grow as a leader, get where you want to go. And there's a lot of brutal honesty that occurs, and sometimes it's hard. Um, but they stay, and
Yeah.
they, my original member that started with me in Dallas was part of that 11 and a half years ago. He's still with me today.
Oh my gosh, I didn't
Several
realize that history.
Yeah, several of the members that Dallas started with, and Dallas was one of my original members, and I love him for that,
Yeah.
um, and they're still with me today because where else can you come get brutal honesty? Where else can you come get? We have these incredible speakers, and so they grow from that. It's not really me. In fact, I even tell people I don't bring value to the group. I my job is to create an environment where value exists.
Mhm.
Their job is to come get the value, and there's incredible value there every month.
Oh my gosh. When I think of an executive, I see them as most of the ones that I've had experience with, and I'm sure they're not all this way. Their heads are in the clouds and they have 20 great ideas, right? And things they just want to do. One, is that your experience? Have you seen that executives tend to be visionaries? And two, if that's the case, how do you get them to focus in on what they're good at?
Yeah, that's a
I
challenge.
bet.
That is a challenge. Well, for a lot of the CEOs who that you're describing, who are the big visionaries,
Uh-huh.
and you don't want to ask the people that work for me, they would tell you that they have told me on many a day, no ideas today. We're not accepting any new ideas. But those type of people need a really good people around them that can execute.
Okay.
And so it's okay to be the person in the clouds as long as you understand you got to let the rest of the people execute, and you got to let them execute in their own way.
Mm,
And that's the challenge because a lot of times, and I'm guilty of this, I want it done my way because my way is right.
yeah.
Kind of the joke I make in my groups is that I have learned over the course of all these years, I'm the smartest person in the room. And the reason is because I've learned I'm usually the least smartest person in the room, and that makes me very, very smart. And so I have to, even myself and the CEOs I work with, you have to let people be themselves.
Mm,
And because when they're themselves and they're their authentic self, that's where you get the most from them. And so the visionaries, they have a hard time letting go. The 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 other type of CEO I have are the ones that get in the weeds.
oh.
And so I'm constantly pulling like, nope, stay out. You got to stay up here.
Yeah.
And a lot of them is because they'll say, but I can do it better than everybody else. And they're not wrong.
Yeah.
They can, but they can't grow and build a company that way.
Is there a balance to or is let me ask first. Is there a balance to being that CEO and getting out of your way? And it feels like we're having a really timely conversation, but I'm hoping I'm phrasing that right or I'm asking that right. If you have a CEO who's in the weeds, how do you get them to come out?
Well, we focus a lot. That's actually a harder play. Um,
Yes.
and usually it's my experience that those people are in the weeds are brilliant at what they do. They're the 1% at what they do.
Uh-huh.
And they really have to make a decision. Do I want to be a doer or do I want to build a company?
That and see, my question comes from my background in city planning. I
Mhm.
have worked with some amazing city planners that were honestly in positions of leadership they shouldn't have held because they enjoyed doing the work,
Right.
right?
Right. Right, and we have assessments. I use Culture Index.
Okay.
It's a they're an organization, and there's a guy, Michael Hall, who got me started on it, and I use it for everything. It helps understand people's behaviors and what they're good at. I do that assessment on every CEO, and I have other assessments that we do, but that one helps me understand how you're going to lead, what behaviors you're going to exhibit,
Mm.
and so that gives me some insight from the very beginning of what we're going to be working with.
So it's culture index. There's so many, and I'm
Yes.
I am a girly, a corporate girly who loves her assessments, and I can't. I'm trying to nail down which one is culture index. Is that the dots?
Yes, the
Okay.
dots.
All right.
That's what they call them, is the dots.
Yes. So that actually, that tool was life saving or work saving, emotional saving in a role I had where I was at odds with another assistant.
Mhm.
And the CEO sat me down and showed us both of our culture indexes. And she said, look, this person is very much like to the point, very straight. And your dots tell me you're very emotional. And it clicked in that moment. Like,
Yeah.
oh, this is why we are having a communications issue because I'm approaching it as, why isn't she responding the way I am? And she's thinking, I'm just giving information. There's nothing behind what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I'm just telling you, I'm just telling you information.
Right.
And do you find that the other CEOs find value in these assessments?
Oh, yes. Oh,
Yeah.
yes. Once they understand them, I have one CEO I'm working with right now, very, very large company, and he was having some issues with his leadership team, and a super high emotional person. In fact, on the scale, he's as high as it gets.
Uh huh.
And we've worked a lot on, you make up all these stories in your head that just aren't true. And so until you stop making up these stories, and so he'd call me and he'd say, "Hey, I got this going on. Should I be upset about this?" I'm like, "No, no." And I even told him the other day, I'm like, "It's arrogance to think people care that much about you. That you're that much part of what they're thinking. No."
It is. I feel like my therapist is here right now because she would tell me, I would go over and, during our sessions, like, "Oh, this happened between me and my husband." And I would say, I would tell her the story and she goes, okay, well, in that you've made up a narrative and you didn't give room for another narrative. And maybe that was the true one.
Yeah. Yeah, one of the 11 things is to stay out of the drama triangle. And I have, the people that are able to do that, to
Hmm.
really not be the hero, not be the villain, not be the victim, the people that are able to stay outside that drama triangle, I call them, and this wasn't part of the original, I forget the guy's name that came up with the drama triangle many, many years ago, but I call him the chess master. The
Uh-huh.
chess masters sit outside the drama triangle and help pull people out, and they don't get caught up in it.
Yeah.
And that's very difficult to do because we love to tell ourselves stories that just aren't true.
Oh my gosh. I really feel like I just needed to hear that today. And that's going to be the snipping that's on Reels and on YouTube and all the good things. Thank you for sharing that with us. And I'm curious, usually this would come up at the end, but I am dying to know when your book comes out. Is it on pre-order right now? What are the things?
We have it. We're putting some final touches on it. I haven't decided when I'm going to put it out. I may wait as long as next July,
Okay.
um, but I haven't decided that just yet. So my hope is that it will be ready to go in the next 120 days.
Oh, that's so exciting. And when it does, I will be sure to let the community know where they can get their copy
Awesome.
because valuable insight. And being at a couple of the Vistage presentations, just because of the person I was assisting at the time, I'm grateful just to get that knowledge secondhand so
Yeah.
that you're putting this out there at an accessible price, right?
Right. Right.
Is a
I,
blessing.
and I'll tell you, I look back on my leadership when I was leading sales organizations, and I was a terrible leader. And I'm not being self-deprecating.
Uh-huh.
I look at the 11 things, and there wasn't one of them I was good at. You don't realize that. And the problem with that is there were times I had some pretty significant success.
Hmm.
And so we think because we had success, we're really good. And the fact of the matter is, I was having success despite my leadership, not because of my leadership. And I realize that today. And so I just want to be clear with people that these 11 things, I struggle with them today. Just ask the people that work for me.
Uh-huh.
Is they will even bring up, is that number 6 on our list here that I see coming out, and I'm like, oh
That's how you
crap, that's true. I'm
that's how
sorry.
you know you've surrounded yourself with the right people.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely, because I want them to feel I want them to feel not only that I'm okay with their feedback, I
Mhm.
want them to feel like they're required to give me their feedback. And so, because the reality is, I realize how bad I was,
Uh-huh.
and I don't, I want to be part of the 1%, not part of the 99%. And for most of my career in life, I was part of the 99%.
What was that aha moment for you?
Well, surrounding myself with, there's not an MBA program in the country that can compete with what I see on a monthly basis. I see real life,
Mhm.
real things, real business problems, and I get to watch them play out. And so for 11 and a half years, that's all I've done. And I have 100 people that I work with
Mhm.
currently. And so every one of them have issues, challenges, opportunities, and I get to see. I mean, I look at how many opportunities I missed in my life, and I'm dealing with people that are doing the exact same thing, and I
Yeah.
had no idea I was missing these opportunities because I didn't have the people around me, and I didn't have the chops at that point in my career to do it, and I didn't have the people around me to tell me differently. And in some degree, when I didn't always listen to them.
I am s You're just leaving me speechless. I am so happy that we are recording this right now and being able to share it because there's it's just amazing knowledge, and I can't thank you enough.
Oh, happy to do it.
Yeah. Um, you mentioned many things and, oh, I could feel my squirrel brain going, "Oh, let's go there, let's go there, let's go there." Have you ever because to have that mindset of being that lifelong student, right, is something it feels like you kinda have. You're the leader in the room, don't get me wrong, but you also are self-aware enough to know that you are approaching things as a student in certain aspects. What happens when you have a CEO that doesn't have that mindset?
I don't work with them. Yeah, and they don't want to work with me either, right?
Mm,
One of the greatest men I ever worked with, Major Jim Wilson, Special Forces. He um, in November 3 years ago. He was at my meeting. He had cancer, had his beanie on.
mm,
He was writing in his journal. He was unable to make the meeting in December, and he died in January. And he was a wonderful human being. And I mean, less than 2 months before he died, he's at that meeting trying to learn, knowing that he has cancer all in his body. And and I watched a man like, and he was my moral compass. I
yeah.
The thing is, a lot of the CEOs that I coach, they've actually done more for me than I believe I've done for them. Um, and he was one of those. I could ask him, "What's the right thing to do in this situation?" And Jim always knew.
Yeah.
He was just a wonderful human being. But he learned up until the very end. And in our last one-to-one that would occur less than 30 days before he died, I knew he knew because his everything changed. It became all about, here's what I want you to do for my wife. Here
Mm,
when I'm gone, I want you to meet with her quarterly. I want you to, I want her to be able to call you. And so I still meet with her quarterly even today, and she's awesome as well. And
yeah.
and so watching people like that, either get better or you get out.
Oh my gosh. Thank you for sharing that story. You're so right. You're so right. You mentioned he was a major?
Yeah,
Yeah?
yeah.
Writing in his journal, and I'm aware that many CEOs practice journaling, and curiosity has gotten the better of me. Is that something that you do? Do you
Oh,
journal?
absolutely.
Yeah?
In fact, I read all of Jim's journals. If I'm being honest, they made me weep uncontrollably. Just so many times he wrote things about the members like, that person's so smart, and I'm so glad to have them in this group. And just, and here was a man who had been a major. And quick story, I was so proud of myself for jumping out of an airplane one time. I had
Okay.
parachuted, and I came to him and I was like, Jim, I jumped out of an airplane. He's like, "Oh, that's wonderful, tell me about it." I was like, "Jim, have you ever jumped out of an airplane?" He's like, "186 times." I'm like, "Oh gosh."
But he still uh, he gave you that
That's
encouragement,
right.
right?
And he was great about that. He was constantly giving me encouragement, giving other people encouragement. Uh, and that he though he didn't create the biggest business, he didn't create he wasn't good at all the 11 things.
Mhm.
He was one of the better leaders I ever dealt with.
Yeah. Have you have worked with so many high level, high functioning individuals, and you yourself are high level and high functioning. What are some of the things you do to keep your day balanced?
Oh,
I love this
uh,
question.
yeah. So I would tell you, I probably do a really poor job of that.
Uh-huh.
I have 3 daughters. One of them plays soccer at UC Santa Barbara. I have one that's going off to SFA this year. In fact, about a week. And
Congrats.
and then I have another one that plays highly competitive soccer, and she's also a big track runner. And so I'm either working or doing something with them usually. There's not a whole lot of, at this time in my life, there's not a whole lot of else that I even want to be doing.
Uh-huh.
I love what I do. It's not like having a real job. I mean, I go meet with very successful people every single day.
Everyone wants that job that doesn't feel like a job.
Yeah,
It's have found what you are good at. You have then become great at it.
thank you.
How did you figure that out? Asking for a friend.
Uh, well, I'll tell you, it was divine intervention. I had no desire to do this. Through a very strange series of events that occurred over 6 days, I changed the course of my life and decided to do this.
You mentioned that, yeah.
It If it hadn't have been for God making it so abundantly clear, you're going to go do this, I
Uh-huh.
wouldn't have done it, and I didn't want to do it. I had didn't it wasn't even that exciting to me, and so it just he knew better than I did.
How interesting that you say that because I'm sitting here talking with you and looking at you, and there's nothing but passion exuding from you.
Thank you. Yeah, I love what I do.
Uh-huh.
I would hate to work for a living.
Many people would.
Yeah.
So, are you holding back on those 6 days because that's in the book?
Holding back on the sick.
I wanna know more about that.
Oh, oh, uh, oh no, no, no. I had a sales consulting company.
Okay.
I was doing okay.
Uh-huh.
One of the CEOs asked me to go to what at that time was his Vistage meeting. On our way home, he was like, "You need to go do this." I'm like, "I'm not doing that." I mean, and he's like, "No, you don't understand. You need to go become a." They call us chairs.
Uh-huh.
I said, "Okay, well, I'm not doing that, but thank you." And I called my best friend who happens to be in one of my groups today, who's a
Uh-huh.
CEO, just recently sold his company for crazy money, and I called him. He's like, "Yeah, I almost joined that. I looked at joining that." I'm like, "No, I never even heard of it until today." And he's like, "I know this chair." And so he's like, "I'll introduce you." And I'm like, I don't care. I'm not going to do it." And so we got introduced. I wasn't even home yet. And the guy was calling me. And I'm like, I thought, well, maybe I can go get some business from this guy. And I met with him, and I was so turned off by the time I left that I was like, I'm not doing this. I thought it was a multi-level company or something. And
Uh-huh.
not that there's anything wrong with that, but I just, I was like, I'm not doing this. And then I got a call from a guy who wanted me to be his VP of sales, and he just about talked me into it. And we had sat for 4 hours, and I didn't think I'd ever go back to work for somebody else again.
Uh-huh.
But he had me talked into it. And at the end of that meeting, he said, "Dennis, I'm not. You can't reach me tomorrow because I go to this group called Vistage." And I just looked at him in the eye. People have a hard time believing this. I looked at him in the eye and said, "You're not gonna believe this, but I'm gonna go become a Vistage chair. I've just made the decision, and there's nothing you can say or do to talk me out of it." And I'd hung up on this person from Vistage the previous Friday, and we're friends today. But I'd hung up on her, told her I wasn't interested, and then I called her back, and she's like, "Oh, I don't think it'll work. I don't think, I didn't realize this and didn't realize that." I'm like, "It will. it's going to happen. I can assure you. And I said, when's the next training? And she said, January 5th, but there's no way we can get you to that. Even if we did, it'll be March or April.
Uh-huh.
January 5th, I was at training.
When things align, they align.
Yep.
Yes.
So, and I had doubts when I started because it's hard.
That's one of the questions that came to mind when you were telling us this story is if there's someone out there listening and they're straddling that line of security and betting on themselves, what made you take that leap to bet on yourself?
Well, I have a high risk
Okay.
tolerance. Other members of my family did not. And so my wife was not overly excited about the prospect. She fully changed her tune later on, but I'm high risk tolerant. But I will tell you, and this leads to people ask me sometimes, what's the difference in the CEOs and the rest of the people?
Mm.
And what I can tell you, having worked with so many of them, nothing. Here's the difference: they take a risk at some point, and a lot of times the first one doesn't work out. Or a lot of times, I mean, I sat with a CEO at a Starbucks one time, tears strolling down his eyes because he thought he was going to lose his business. He is thriving today. He's an amazing CEO. Dallas knows him,
Uh-huh.
and he, you know, there's these moments where you stand at the ledge and you have to either jump or walk away. And the only difference in the CEOs, the people that build businesses and don't, is they jump.
I was sitting down with a very renowned locally here in the Metroplex photographer, and he told me that when he decided to take that jump, right, and start his business, he did it with there were several other people that were making the jump and starting their own things. And he was the only one of that group that survived because he went all in.
That's right.
And it kind speaking of things aligning, I am facing a choice right now of deciding what my next move is. Someone told me, "Oh, now Danny wants to know what she wants to be when she grows up."
Yeah.
And I said, "Yes, and I'm over 40." Is it too late for me, Dennis?
Oh, it's not only just not too. I mean, Zig Ziglar didn't start speaking for money until he was in his 40s.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, Sam Walton didn't start until later in life. I mean, no. No, I've got, I was with a CEO yesterday, just just an incredible, incredible human being. But he was talking about he's 60, I think 68 years old, and he's made the majority of his wealth in the last 8 years. And so no, there's you can do anything you want. That's the problem is we get to that point and our fears get in the way, the stories we create get in the way. I mean, I have two. The only CEO I have that doesn't have imposter syndrome is a narcissist. Let's be clear. Every CEO I've gotten, this is something people don't know about CEOs. If they were being honest with you, there's a lot of days they would come to you and say, "I'm not sure I know what I'm doing. I'm not sure I'm making the best decisions. I'm really worried about things. I'm scared to death that I'm not the person I need to be to lead this company."
Mhm.
And I mean, if they're telling their employees that, there'd be a mass exodus.
Yeah.
But I sat in a room with 11 CEOs who fought over the fact that they were the least worthy to be in the room.
What?
And these are some of the most, one of them is probably the smartest human I've ever met. And he was the most adamant that he was a trauma surgeon of all things. And and a person that I go to when I want advice
Mhm.
because of how smart he is.
Yeah.
He believed he was the least in the room.
Oh my gosh.
And so I think people have a misperception of who CEOs are because you know what they're not getting? They're not getting any encouragement. And no offense, but if you go give your CEO encouragement, he or she, the first thing they think about is what does Danny want?
Right.
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 And so my number one role as their coach is to provide them honest, authentic encouragement, because they don't get it anywhere else.
Ah, it's interesting that you went there because and I've always said this, when I made the leap to being an executive assistants see that side of an executive
Mhm,
that many people don't.
mhm.
Like you mentioned, the late hours worrying.
Yeah,
The There's a reason when you're looking at a job description for an EA, it's confidentiality is one of those top traits wanted because we have access to emails and certain things. So we get to see that human side to them.
mhm. Yeah,
And you provide that service that not only you being that coach, but putting them with their peers and they're able to support each other. When someone decides to come to you, is it usually because they need help or they're being proactive and want to put a tool in their toolbox
yeah.
so they can oh, let me preface this by saying I have noticed many CEOs are also resilient.
Very much so, yes.
Yes. So do you find when someone's approaching you, is it a proactive or is it I'm in trouble and I need your help?
I'm not gonna say it's never proactive.
Mhm.
I can't think of one of my 55 right now that were they all have a problem.
Mhm.
And I think when they come to the realization that I can't do it by myself and I shouldn't do it by myself,
Mm.
that's when they come to me. But no, there's usually a problem. There's usually a challenge they're facing that they realize they don't have the knowledge to solve, and they put away their ego and go, "I'm going to get help." And that's very consistent among the CEOs is they will. I mean, I have lots of big egos. Don't get me wrong,
Uh-huh.
myself included. But I think everybody comes into that room, especially in the peer group, and goes, "All right, give it to me."
Yeah.
They pay a lot of money for that,
Yeah.
and they also, I have one that has called my one to ones his monthly colonoscopy.
Oh my
Uh,
gosh.
I have hurt feelings. I have
I
upset
bet.
people terribly. One in particular that I severely hurt his feelings. You know, at the time I thought, well, I lost that client. That was unfortunate, and he's still with me today. And so sometimes it hurts, but
Yeah.
that's the only way we grow.
100%. So true. Do you consider you've mentioned several times now that you're a coach. I feel maybe that comes from your sports background, but do you consider yourself a consultant?
No,
No.
no, I'm a professional question asker.
Ooh, I love that. Is that on your LinkedIn?
I don't think so, but
It should be.
that's if you really ask what I do. I've there's so often I don't agree with the decisions the CEOs are making. That's not my job to if they're making it and they feel good about it and they're making it the right, without fear and I've got one now that's selling and I'm like, he shouldn't sell. He shouldn't sell his company. He'll triple the size of that company if he doesn't sell. But if somebody's offering you, $60 million, it's like, why do I care? I'm not going to spend 60 million. Why do I want to grow it?
Mm,
And that's not my decision.
right.
What I think of that doesn't matter. My job is to help support him in what he wants to do, not to convey to him what I think he should do. Because in the end, I don't really know.
I have spoken to other guests about this. At what point do you what is that balance between letting them make the decision and stepping in as that coach?
Well, I think a lot of times I want to understand what's making the decision.
That
How's
professional question
how's
asker.
fear driving this? Are you
Oh,
afraid?
oh,
How what I ask all the time, what are you scared of here? What's the worst that can happen? And so many times when people start really outlining, I'll say, what's the worst? I could lose my business. What's the chance that'll happen? Less than 1%. Then what are we even talking about? Right? I mean, how many times if you could go to Vegas and bet all your money on a 99.5% chance that you're going to win, you got to be really risk averse not to take that bet. And a
yeah.
lot of times that's what we're looking at, but fear builds up. It's like, I'm afraid I'm going to lose what I have. I'm afraid, because they now have much bigger responsibilities.
Yeah.
And the fact that people don't realize how much CEOs care about their people, and I like to put it a different way. They love their A players.
Mhm.
They like their B players, and they have a hard time getting rid of sometimes the C players.
Yeah.
And and so, but they love their people, and they don't want to screw the business up so that they have to get rid of people, and because there's families and everything like that involved. So that makes it tough on them.
Yeah. And as mentioned before, I feel sometimes CEOs, because they have to make these hard decisions that are impactful to people, it can be hard to humanize them.
Hmm. I don't know if I agree with that.
Oh.
I think I think I think the majority of the people I deal with, I would tell you, allow that to influence their decisions regularly,
Mm.
because they will hesitate, because if something goes wrong,
Yeah.
I have to lay off 20 people, and these are
Yeah.
people I like. These are people I care about. And I think people miss that, and I think people miss how hard it is when you do have to do those hard things.
Yeah.
Um,
100%, which is what I was trying to get at. I phrased it wrong. So I'm sitting here, I'm getting a crash course lesson in professional question asking myself.
you're doing great.
Thanks. When one of the things that's at the heart of Sweet Mornings is giving people things that they can do right now to level up.
Yeah.
Is there a book that you would recommend people have in their library?
Well, I have a list of books, and I'm happy to share it with you.
Okay. Yes,
You
please.
mentioned one, Jim Collins, Good to Great.
Mhm.
I think is a must read. Leadership and Self Deception is one that I recommend every leader read.
Okay, that's the first I'm hearing of that one.
It's the Harbinger Institute.
Okay.
Um, let's see, What Got You Here Won't Get You There. I think that's 10x is easier than 2x. I think is a great book. There's a ton of them that I believe
Yeah.
are are must read. About 10 of them that are must reads, but that's some of the more important ones that um, I think to start with, especially if you're newer into leadership or you've been into leadership and you're trying to get to the 1%. I think all of those are good books.
What is something that you do for yourself to pours into you so you're not pouring from an empty cup?
Well, I love to watch my daughter's sports games.
Yeah.
That's probably one of my favorite things. Something I don't do enough of, but my middle child's kind of a foodie, and I
Uh-huh.
love when she and I go try restaurants and stuff for the first time. So I would say that those things fulfill me.
What's a restaurant that I need to try in the DFW Metroplex?
You've probably been to most of the one. I mean, I love Uchi.
I haven't been.
Oh, then I would start there.
Is it so it's Uchi?
Uchi, yeah.
Okay. Is it sushi? Yeah,
Yes.
okay.
Yes, it
Where's it
is.
at? Plano?
No, it's, well, there's a Uchiba, I think, here in Plano, and then Uchi is downtown
All
Dallas, so,
right.
well,
Last
it's a couple of my favorite places.
I love that. Thank you for that suggestion. I am putting it on my list because, as I've mentioned, I'm a Taurus and we get stuck in our routines. And so I will go to the same my poor husband. I dragged him to the same Italian restaurant for several months before he was like, "Can we try something
Gotcha.
new?" So, Dennis, I hope you're not picking this up, Austin. My stomach is growling or grumbling like crazy. um, Dennis, you mentioned that you've been in this for 11 and a half years.
Mhm, yes.
What are some of the things you felt set a great foundation for you to take that leap?
Well, that's a great question. I really look at 11 and a half years ago as um, I think probably the biggest thing is I don't have to have all the answers.
Mm.
Uh, One of the chapters of my book is titled, You Can Do More with 10 Questions Than You Can Do with 1,000 Statements. And I honestly believe that. I think changing my approach with questions has changed my relationship with my kids.
Yeah.
I'm a professional question asker to them. My daughter, that's off in college, she calls me almost every day, and sometimes she'll even say, "Dad, I want your advice on something." And at first, I thought she wanted my advice, but she doesn't. She wants my questions. She wants to solve the problem,
Yeah.
and she wants me to ask the questions that allow her to solve the problem. And so she doesn't even really want my advice. And so I think that's been a big turning point. I thought people used to pay me for how smart I was, and now I know that that's not true at all.
Mhm.
Uh, people will pay you for how much you can bring out of them, and I think the key component of that is asking great questions.
Can you share with us a great question that you asked that when you asked it, you yourself were like, "That was good."
Oh, well, I think y- well, a lot of times the question, and I don't know if this is a great question as much as the ones that I ask the most is the question I ask the most is, what does that mean? Because we all have these things. Like you might say, I want to be successful. What does that mean?
Ah, the double clicking.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I want to have enough money well, what does that mean? Right. I mean, because we don't define what we want. We know kind of in theory what we want, but my job is to help you get clarity, as you
Mm.
brought up from the very beginning.
Mhm.
And so, what does that mean is a question I ask probably more than any other. One of the questions that I'm famous for among my members and the people that I coach is, okay, so where are you the problem here? And I ask that question very regularly, especially when they're in the drama triangle.
I was gonna you there's a TikTok audio that was made popular, I think it was from RuPaul's Drag Race, where it's like, "Am I the drama? I'm not the drama." And that's
Yeah,
where yes.
yeah, we're usually part of the drama, and we're I had a wonderful question asked me not that long ago. A woman that I coach, she says, "Dennis, am I always part of the problem?" And I thought about it, and I said, "Let me get back to you." And there was probably a day that went by, and I came back and I called her. I'm like, "I have an answer. Yes, yes, you are.
Oh, that brutal honesty.
We're always part of the problem, right?" And so it doesn't mean we're 1% versus 99% right part of the problem, but we're always part of it. And so focusing on where I can fix me is I think the first step in being a great leader. I need to fix me. I can't fix you.
Mhm.
Only you can do that.
You reminded me, and I don't tell this story that often because, again, it's it's one that I recognize as an EA wasn't the most professional, but I asked an exec one time I was dating, and now I can tell you have a bad picker, and I was frustrated and going through another breakup, and I asked my executive, I'm like, "Who would you tell your daughter not to date?" Because I am always after tips and just show me the way, right?
Mhm.
And he kind of mentioned, and he mentioned several careers, right? That, oh, you shouldn't go after those type of guys. And then he said, but Danny, you're making these choices. You're choosing to date these men. And I walked away. Literally, if it had been a cartoon, I'd be deflating like onto
Yes.
the ground. And he was right. I did some self reflection. I journal and was like, I am the problem
Yeah.
here. It is on me, and I need to figure out what's going on, or I'm going to keep repeating a pattern. And I got that brutal honesty that helped me get into the relationship that I'm in today. But yeah, it basically I kind of was asking the same question. Am I well, no, I didn't ask that question. I was just told you're the problem.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I recently, the pastor at our church, who I think does a very good job, um, but I wasn't coming to church going, "God, I can't wait to hear what he has to say."
Hmm.
And I made the decision that I'm going to start bringing my Bible. I'm going to start bringing a pen to write in my Bible. I'm going to start taking notes. I'm going to change the way I operate. And it's amazing how much better he got. And so it's just another example of when we fix ourselves, it's amazing how much things change. And
Before
not even fix. That's a bad word. Not when we fix our when we focus on
uh,
what we can do better, where we're contributing to either problems or challenges, when we put that focus there, it
mhm.
changes everything.
What's next for you, Dennis?
Oh, what do I want to be when I grow up? I
Yeah.
don't know. Well, I'm very excited about this book because I feel like it was written by all the CEOs
Yeah.
that I have had the opportunity to be a part of their lives, and I get to sit on the front row with them in the arena, and I get to be their biggest cheerleader. I get to pretend like I have a bigger role in their success than I probably really
Uh-huh.
do, um, it's a wonderful place to be.
Uh-huh.
And so I'm very excited about the book. I'm very excited about this assessment we've created and it really aligns with the 11 things.
Mhm.
It's to help people understand where they fall in those 11 things,
Yeah.
and so we're going to be offering that to CEOs for free,
Okay.
and that will be as early as this month. And so
Wow.
yeah, and so I get a great amount of joy of creating these things. I have a business bracket that I actually stole from Dallas. I don't
Uh-huh.
mind saying,
Uh-huh.
and completely improved upon it, Dallas, if you're listening. But I have a business bracket that has been very helpful for people that I've created, and so I get a great amount of joy on creating things and doing things that are helping people get where they want to go. Because and it's on all my emails. You've seen
I
it.
have.
Um, my purpose in life is really a Zig Ziglar quote, and it's "You get what you want out of life by helping enough other people get what they want." And I didn't understand that early on, even when I was working for Zig, I did not understand that.
Yeah.
And thankfully, I've come to a point in my life where, and he said that to me on a couple occasions, just kind of out of the blue. I think he recognized it too. Sad to say that I probably wasn't living as well that way as I could have, and I now when I get to heaven and see him, I'm gonna tell him that was the quote that made all the difference.
I am gonna go write that down and tape it to my mirror. But thank you so much, Dennis, as someone who, I grew up in small town USA, 3,200 people. And I would say, people ask, what is your definition of success or what does success look like to you? And I would say, oh, it's a yard with St. Augustine grass and central air and heating because I didn't have that growing up. Like,
Yeah,
I remember going to the store to buy a block of ice. I don't even know if they sell ice blocks anymore to put in the water cooler during the summer.
yeah,
So it'd be cool. And now, if I hadn't met Dallas Cothram, my life wouldn't have changed. He is the one that I feel had changed the trajectory of my life. And here in a few months, my best friend wants to sit with me and talk to me about what I've learned from everyone I've interviewed. And it's key. There is a person at some point in your life that will change the direction of it.
hmm
And if you're not aware and you're not open, you're gonna miss it. And that I feel is the heart of what Sweet Mornings is one, bringing people into rooms with high performing executives. I've mentioned that, but also to if don't miss out on that one person. I feel like all we've talked about, it's that it's be open to learning and don't miss out on that connection that could
yeah.
change the course of your life.
Yeah, I'm very proud of you for what you're doing here, and I know you're going to be very successful at it. I've known you for a little bit, just basically through Dallas, but you're doing a great job, and I think what you're doing here is both powerful and needed for people. So good job on that. Good job for taking that leap and doing all of this. I think it's great.
Stop, I don't want to cry on camera. Thank you, Dennis.